So good morning. Good morning. It's Wednesday and we're here for Wednesday Wisdom. So lovely to have anyone that's watching. And if you're watching the replay or you're watching on YouTube, love to have you here as well. So, and we are here with the beautiful Ciara Barry, who has her own unique healing process, I suppose you would call it. But before we start, I just want to say that we book out these wisdom sessions well in advance. I think we're up to February now if anyone wants to book in. And so I have my team do the whole process. I just basically the morning before, or on Tuesday I'll have a look and see who I'm talking to. And I saw the process and I looked at your photo and I thought, oh my gosh, she's elfin. She's got fairy energy in her for sure. So I was like, I'm so looking forward to this conversation. So we've never met, but we just happened to I think I reached out. We were just talking. And how did we meet? So
yeah, we were just chatting about how we met. It's just, I think there's just connections, and I'm doing a lot of collaborative calls with a lot of different healers and coaches around the world at the moment. So, I'm actually connecting with beautiful people, like really beautiful people.
And so at the moment you're in Sydney, but you're from Ireland.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I'm living in Paddington in Sydney. And I've just recently moved over to Australia. So that's been a process in itself.
Yes, it is. It's big enough moving. I used to live in Far North Queensland, so it's big enough moving states, let alone whole countries. I can only just imagine. You just have to sell everything and start again, right?
Oh yeah, pretty much. I have nothing left in Ireland. No, all gone. Everything, cars, the whole lot, everything.
Yeah, all gone. And so, Ciara, tell us a little bit about you first. Like, how did you become a healer and how did you learn about who you are? And because you definitely have a beautiful light energy to you. So
it's been a huge journey for me, really, to be honest. And this is probably one of the first times I've ever actually spoken about it. Like, I was living in Kildare for the last 13 years, so people in that area would have known about me, but I never kind of put any of this on social media. It was more word of mouth. So this is really me stepping out.
Well done.
Yeah. So
we feel privileged. We feel privileged as women of light.
Yeah, first podcast ever, so we'll have to go with it. I guess for me, it started like we have healers in the family. That's like, so it runs down my family, my mother's side of the family. And I guess as a child, I was clairaudient. So I was able to hear the spiritual realms. Now it came on and off throughout my whole childhood, basically. And then at the age of 15, I got extremely ill.
Can I just ask you a question?
Yes.
I've just finished last night with a women's circle, and we were talking about how to support our children, the girls and everything. Were you, if it's run in your lineage, was it something that you were okay sharing with your family, and did they encourage it or did they discourage it? Or
no, it wasn't really supported. Like, we would get this from my mother and my grandmother. I told my mother when I was 11 that I was hearing things, and she, like, I do think she gave me probably the best advice, but she basically told me never to speak about it again.
Wow. Oh, I bet that was hard.
Yeah, that was quite challenging. And I think, I was reared Catholic as well. So I suppose for me, it was like, we get this from my mother and my grandmother. My sisters can see things, there's a lot.
But it's secret, right? It's kept.
Yeah. It wasn't really talked about. Definitely not. It wasn't something. I had to figure this out by myself.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say I had a support system. Now, I'm like, that's just how things were even back in Ireland as well.
Same with me. I had no support system, had to work it out myself. So
So whereas now I think people are kind of, more aware of these things. I was a school teacher for the last 15 years, so I had a lot of kids who had abilities, and they would tell me about it. And I was like, oh, wow, you know, and it kind of made me realize that often I would ask, have you said it to your parents? And they wouldn't have. They'd come to me and tell me. I think it was probably because my energy was a safe place to actually, like, they'd come over and express that. So there's a lot of kids who have huge abilities.
Oh, absolutely.
And I do think a lot of parents don't know how to support that either. You know.
Yeah.
So I definitely, I needed the manual, but I pretty much had to figure it out myself. And I think at the age of 15, I got extremely ill. Now, I call them psychic illnesses, really. Like, it was autoimmune. My whole immune system pretty much collapsed, and I was ill for 13 years, and extremely ill for 13 years. And nobody, the medical model, wasn't able to help me. I had multiple symptoms on a daily basis. The infection traveled into all my organs and eventually went to my brain. So basically, I was in pain every day for 13 years, and that wasn't spoken about either. Only my immediate family knew about that.
Yeah.
So I never spoke about being ill for 13 years. It wasn't something that was talked about. And I think then basically in the end, I did eventually go to a lot of alternative health to try and sort out my health. Now, it did help, but no one really was able to sort it out. And eventually I had to start digging seriously deep and working with my energy and really looking at every aspect of myself in order to basically heal myself so that I could get my health back. And after 13 years, I managed. I'm perfectly well now. It was a huge process. And I suppose for a lot of that time, I felt quite disempowered because nobody could help me. I didn't know how to help myself. I was quite young at the time. And when I started to get better, my brain was quite badly affected from being ill for that length of time. So it was like, the only way I can describe it, like, I had issues with my language because, like, all the words were nearly put back in the wrong filing cabinet in my brain. So as a teacher, trying to hide the problems I was having with, you know, speech was an interesting, like, I did a lot of brain work and a lot of healing, even when I was much better. I'm perfect now, thank God. But I started really, once I got better, that was really the beginning of my journey in a lot of ways, because I really started working with my energy on a daily basis. I wanted to empower myself and maintain good health. So can I just ask you? Yeah.
Would that have, you know, in those 13 years, it's almost like the dark night of the soul, right? And you're working on your, you know, autoimmune disease, but also figuring out who you are at the same time?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
And so as that, you know, heals, is because you're starting to feel comfortable with the parts of you that you had hidden.
Exactly.
Because it doesn't surprise me at all that you were sick if you had these talents and then they were suppressed.
Yeah. Because I was super sensitive. I was picking up lots of energy, global energy. Like, my family tree was quite energetically heavy. So I was carrying it all. So a lot of what was going on with me wasn't even my own energy. But because I didn't know who I was and was in tune with my own energy at the time, I was picking up on everybody else's stuff along with my own stuff. And it was having a huge physical impact on my health. And I started then exploring. I knew I wanted to get into the holistic field after I got better, but there were so many different holistic, you know, choices that I was like, oh, I like reflexology, I like Matsu. I had gone to so many different practitioners myself, kinesiology and whatnot. But eventually I did energy courses, like became a Reiki master, an integrated energy therapist, crystal healing. I looked into, I'm quite shamanic as well. So I looked into all of these and I trained in a lot of them. But as I went, I feel like they were huge stepping stones for me. And I learned so much about myself in that process. But there was something still kept, even though I was working with these modalities and these particular energies, I was like, it's still not aligned with who I am.
There was something calling. Yes, deep within.
I didn't know what it was. And I was obviously, when you do all these trainings, like I initially did this to empower myself and work with my health and my, like looked at emotional stuff, mental, you know, patterns and all of that. I kind of initially, I was like, oh, like, I kind of was like, so there's something else, but I don't know what it is. There's something else. And I then went on a trip to South America about 6 years ago, and I traveled around South America for a couple of months. And that is where StarlightGlow came to be. I went on a 10-day hike doing a Salcantay trek in the Andes. And it's the guide, our mountaineer, as far as I'm concerned, he was a healer, because he did loads of rituals on the mountain, like healing rituals on the mountain. And he was so full of knowledge. He was very shamanic. And sure, there was loads of healing going on for everyone on the mountain. It was fabulous. And then we ended up going on to Machu Picchu. And the energy in Machu Picchu is huge. And everything, I was shown everything of what I was meant to do in this lifetime. And initially at that time, I would have been seeing one-on-one clients back in Ireland and internationally. But I just assumed I'd just do one-on-one clients. As I said, you know, people were getting results. People kept coming back to me and said they were feeling better. But when I was on Machu Picchu, I was shown that I was basically meant to do workshops and teach people how to heal themselves, to empower people. Because I feel like I felt so disempowered myself for so long. And now I'm in a state of empowerment that I really feel so strongly that people need to be empowered and to be able to look after their health. It's a really nice position to be in when you know what to do, but people haven't been taught how to deal with releasing their emotional baggage, like mental blockages. You know, everything is connected.
Yeah.
So I really feel if people had the skills and just simple energetic skills on how to clear their energy fields and so forth, they would actually, they wouldn't need, like they won't need help. They'll be able to do it themselves.
Absolutely. And,
You know,
and we're in that, we're definitely, you know, the world's in an interesting place, right? And I've said this a number of times. Anyone that's an avid follower knows that, like, here we are with the world going into total chaos and destruction.
Yeah.
And yet all I see is this rise of this spiritual awakening on a global scale, and people that are already awake leveling up to that next level. There's so much happening, all this creativity happening, and if we can understand ourselves,
I think it's key.
Yeah, absolutely. I just had a moment this morning because I've been thinking about it for a while. As I just spoke to you, I moved down south, so I'm down in Shell Harbour, and I've had some challenges with my lower back and hip and everything, and I've been doing a bit of yoga and blah, blah, blah. And then because I wasn't looking after myself, you know, I was eating a bit of crap and, you know, like, because I normally eat quite healthy. All of a sudden it dawned on me, it's not my lower back. It's my intestines from, you know, my the nerves, because the intestines got so many nerves around it. Being a massage therapist for so long. So I've done some abdominal massage every morning for about 4 days or something like that, completely gone. All my stretches that are, you know, like everything's just gone because I've helped support my intestines, you know. And I thought, how many people are walking around with lower back issues thinking it's their lower back, but it's not, you know, it's something else.
Yeah, like I would have a lot of clients coming to me and they might have shoulder, like a lot of physical problems.
Yes.
And it might be like their shoulder or their neck, and they have huge pain in their neck, for example. And I then will start to treat, say, their lower back or pelvis, and they're like, but I don't have a pain in my lower back, I have a pain in my neck. I said, well, that's not, like, I look for the root
where
cause.
It is.
As you said, you had lower back pain, but you focused on doing your abdominal and your intestinal work.
Yeah.
You know? So, and you got to the root cause.
Yeah.
And that's really key, looking at the root cause, because I call it body talk. Our body is talking to us and it's telling us. It's got this huge innate intelligence, but we just need to listen. And we don't sit still for long enough to truly listen what it's trying to communicate. And the minute you listen and you release and figure it out, your body automatically, like the pain can go instantly if you actually just sit and listen.
Just acknowledging it sometimes is enough, isn't it? Yeah. I've always said 80% of any problem is the acknowledgement of it, and then the rest sort of just flips out as you can work with it from after that. And so, even, you and I understand the concept of listening, but there's to be many women on here that are women of light that are still in that space of not understanding some of that language, or in doubt or fear, still listening to their mind instead of their spirit. Listening is something that it sounds hard, but it isn't actually, right? So do you want to just talk a little bit about that?
Well, for me, I started meditating probably a good 14 years ago. And I remember it's a bit like what you're saying. I had quite a busy mind. I'm very curious about the world. I love to learn. And I remember trying the first time, and like I could barely still my mind, like for 2 minutes. I was like, this is never going to work. And but with practice, now I meditate every day. I could be still for 2 hours and nothing would go like through my mind. I just have absolute stillness. Now, obviously, I don't get that every day. It depends on what's going on, but it's very much I listen to my body on a daily basis and ask, where am I at? I will sit every morning and just sit and see where there's any blockages in my body or like what's going on. Obviously, I'm quite sensitive, so to global energy at the moment is quite heightened as well. And at this time, I do feel like it's so important for people to be clearing their energy field. But people
absolutely
aren't aware of that. I mean, I remember the last day of my trip, I was in Brazil, in Rio de Janeiro, and I was guided. I have a spiritual team. I call them my team, basically, but they're my team of guides. And they were communicating to me and putting me in various places in the botanical gardens. They were just doing healing on my final day of my trip. And they got me to stand in a beautiful kind of forestry part of the botanical gardens, just surrounded by bamboo. And they got me to stand there for 20 minutes, and I could feel the energy going up and down my body. And I knew they were doing something massive, because I could feel such, like, to a point where my body started to sway. Like I was being physically, like I could feel moved. And after 20 minutes, it all stopped, and they were like, "You're done." And I said, "Great." And I said, "Thank you very much." And one of my guys turned to me and said, "Take a selfie." And I started to laugh, because I was like, "Are you serious? Take a selfie?"
Oh, yeah. They stepped up with technology too, right?
It just made me laugh so much. And like, they are quite witty at times. So I just was like, "Okay, I'll entertain you." And I took a selfie, and I was giggling for like about an hour afterwards, just going, "They're hilarious." I didn't think anything of it. And that evening when I got back to the hostel, I was just looking through the pictures. And this is how the Starlight Glow really came about, because basically what came out in the picture I had never witnessed. I actually was like, oh my God. It was all the sacred geometry symbols came out in front of my chest. It's physically, you can see it on the picture. And it's all full of color, and it's got such a shape. And I remember the minute I looked at it, the energy just hit me. And basically what my team explained to me was, that is your energy. And they gave me the name, Starlight Glow, and that is what you are to utilize. And the minute I aligned with that energy, I was like, oh, it's completely me.
Yeah.
And now I intuitively channel it, and that's what I use. But for the last 6 years, I've only been given permission to use a third of the energy, because people weren't ready for it.
The whole process, yeah.
Because I would have, if I had done healing on people with the 100% of that energy, I would have floored them. They would have been in bed for a month. They just wouldn't have been able for it. But since last year, I've been given permission to use 100%, and I can go for it now during healings, which is fantastic. Humanity is ready, and I suppose I also had to be ready as well.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So it's been a journey.
And so have you looked into your family lineage since you've woken, you know, like you've incorporated things? Have you looked into your family tree and any story, like to start with, have you told your family? Like, are you okay with sharing this with your family?
Well, they don't know I'm doing a podcast today.
Well, so, it's going to be on YouTube, so maybe you can share it, and I'll just say hello to your mum.
Yeah, like my mother knows, like, I'm a healer, and anytime she, you know, I think my mother's very much into the 9-to-5 job. You know, you get your permanent job. Like, they do come from that mindset of, like, you know, I suppose creativity and something alternative isn't supported, but you have to bear in mind that my parents came from a time when, like, you know, you had to go out. It was hard. You had to go out and earn money, and like, even the thought of moving country, my parents, you know, wouldn't understand that either. The only reason country is because you're unemployed and you can't, you know, like, because a lot of my mother's side of the family would have emigrated to America, for example. So and that was because of, you know, like, they were poverty stricken and couldn't find work, so had to emigrate. So, you know, that's the kind of mindset that my family would have come from. And like, I guess I think I really mirror from my mother the side of her that my mother is an incredible dowser. You should watch her. She could make stones move. And like, I laugh when she starts dowsing, and I'm like, Ma'am, you wonder where we get this, like, you know.
Yeah, that's
like,
right.
Like, I was like, the apple didn't fall far from the tree. Like,
you
know, it's because, like, whenever she gives out, I'm like, Ma'am, you do realize I've got this from you, and like Granny as well, which would be my mother's mother, like, you know, like, it's very much so. And I remember my younger sister, she's a gifted healer as well, and she went to a shamanic healer a long time ago. And the interesting thing what this shamanic healer told my sister, which I thought was really, really interesting. My mother's surname is Barry, and my father's surname is Barry. So,
oh wow.
So basically, my mother never had to change her surname. Obviously, they weren't related.
Yeah.
But they married, and they had the Barry surname. And when this shamanic healer my sister went to, like, recognized and saw that both parents, he must have been asking Fiona about it. He said Barry is a hugely powerful surname. And he said it has the history of having a lot of healers and people with psychic gifts. And that name actually holds that energy. And he said the fact that both your parents had the same surname, he said, I'm not surprised that there's certain gifts running in your family. That's what he said to my sister. And we both kind of went, well, that's really quite interesting.
Well, that for me relates to what's going on in the planet, right? And because things are being put in place for more and more people to wake up. And
like,
so,
it's really an interesting time to be alive.
It is, yeah. It is very interesting. And so many people are, you know, in fear and doubt and concern. And yet I'm like, here we are. We decided, you know, this is it, you know, like, let's ride this wave. Or, you know, I had a friend that I knew was an American shaman who had come over with her husband, and we hung out and did some courses together, you know, like ran some courses. And we used to have this saying, we're riding the rug like Aladdin, you know. Are you riding the rug? Yeah, I'm riding the rug.
It really is that. Yeah, it really is that. Yeah,
it's beautiful. The reason I asked you about your family lineage is I looked into my family lineage after doing a meditation. I don't know, you know, physically didn't know anything about my lineage other than my mum's mum and her grandmother. My mum's grandmother was as far as I knew. And I had done this women's meditation where we went back in the lineage of the women, looked into their eyes, and I went through all these women, and then found, and when I went from the woman that had come over on the boat to the woman in England, in Dorset, there was this woman, and she was she just had this, you know, thing, and she was like, I'm just making bread. And, you know, like, because she was hiding that she was a healer, you know, and found this other Elizabeth all the way back. And so I had my family tree done because I wanted to confirm it. And there she was, this other Elizabeth in our family lineage. And so I was wondering, you know, you were saying your family tree is heavy with healing. I feel like there's so much elfin in you, like there's so much fairy energy that, like, I went to Germany, and I remember driving past on a bus the Black Mountains, the Black Forest, sorry.
Okay, yeah.
And seeing dwarfs, and like as I went past in the bus.
Where was this? Did you say this was in Dorset? Was it? No.
No. This is when I went to Germany. So
Germany. Sorry.
Yeah. So my family lineage is from Dorset, in England.
Yeah.
But I went past and saw in the Black Forest.
Yeah.
I saw the you know, I saw what do you call it? Yeah, dwarfs and you know, some fairies and stuff. And there's this energy around you that's got that same feel to it, you know, like I can see fairies in a real green. So when you were saying about the botanical gardens, I was is that it? And then you said the bamboo, and I'm like, no, that's not it. There's I can feel this other heavy with green moss, and yeah.
Well, I suppose Ireland is very fairy energy.
Yes.
Like all the fairy elementals. Like I would work with that energy as well. Like I work with many different energies. But I'm also quite in touch with my inner child as well. So, like, you know, I really do embrace that side of myself.
Yeah. So I felt fairy energy in you before when we got on here and you started talking. I'm like, she's from Ireland, you know, of course. That works. So, Ciara, how do people get in contact with you if they want to find out more?
Well, as I said, I was probably someone who didn't advertise myself. It was all word of mouth. But my spiritual team have been pushing me and saying, come on now, get on with it. So I have an email address, which is ciara@starlightglowhealing.com. So you can email me either to book a session or just for further information and pricing and whatnot. And I'm doing most of my, like, even though I'm based in Australia, I can see international clients. There's absolutely no problem. I'm doing it via Zoom or via Skype, mostly Zoom, but, you know, I can accommodate people if they don't have Zoom to maybe WhatsApp or whatever. Yeah. And like, you see, healing has no limitations.
That's right.
Like, it's brilliant. It's just as powerful just doing it over a Zoom call. Like,
absolutely. That's how I work.
It doesn't make any difference. And even some of my good friends will ask me to do distance healing when we don't even have a Zoom call. You know, they'll text me and say, I'm having this issue. I'll be like, okay, no problem. So like, it's brilliant. Like, it doesn't make any difference where I am in the world. I can still facilitate and hold that space. I only put up a Facebook page yesterday. So it's just, if you just basically put into Facebook Starlight Glow Healing, it will come up. I have a picture of myself.
So one of the things I'm going to get you to do is to put that Facebook page in when we finish, because we can't see Facebook at the moment. I'll get you to jump in and add that into the comment thread. And perfect. We will then add it into YouTube. So if you're watching on YouTube, you'll see it in the comments down here. So and then, of course, anyone that wants to get in contact with you, if you're on Facebook, you can friend Ciara as well, and then message her on there, as well as the email she just provided. So it's been lovely. It's been lovely to chat with you.
Yeah, no, it really has. I was actually very excited about this call because I loved your energy when we had been like intermittently chatting like a number of weeks ago. Hopefully at some point we can actually physically meet in person, which would be
sounds good.
So nice. Yes, so nice, because your energy is quite light as well. I mean, you have, which is like, I love actually chatting to people on similar vibration, because it's a joyful experience.
and it's just a reconnection, isn't it? Like, when like there's a lot of women that I know that we haven't met, and when we start talking, I know that we've met in other realms, so yeah.
And other lifetimes.
It's been a pleasure.
Yeah. Oh, and your team are so good. I mean, they've sent me emails, and like you seem to have a really good team, physical team behind you, as well as spiritual.
They're absolutely amazing. They're beautiful, and they're so on the same page. They're just here. We're all here to wake women up and to support them as they wake up. And we're all women of light, aren't we? So is the opportunity just to remind them, women who they are, and to support them and give them space for that, give them a container to be in. So
yeah, because I had dealings with them, in the last number of days, and I just went, wow, I felt their energy was like, I was like, you really do have a beautiful team behind you. I could feel that.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
thank you.
So thank you to everybody. Like, I think, was it Ria contacted?
Raya and Irene. Yeah. And now we've got Mel as well. So she's in the background more. She hasn't jumped in to big things yet, but so lovely. I'm sure they're smiling because they do watch these. They love the feedback.
No, I suppose for me, I can feel everything. So I was like, I'm really liking the whole collective team energy of, I was really feeling it. So
Thank you so much, Ciara.
Thank you.
And thank you everyone for watching, and definitely put in your comments and let us know what you got out of this, or what you experienced, if there was any takeaways that you had. And if you feel called to and resonate to Ciara, go and jump on and definitely go in and join her group, so that she can add more light to more women. So that's really beautiful. I'm assuming you work with men as well.
I work with men, women, animals. Yes,
that's
everything.
Right. Yes.
I do the animals as well. I'm big into the animals. So,
That's everyone. Awesome.
Kids. It doesn't really, human beings and everything that's alive.
Anything alive.
Anything alive, basically.
Yeah, because you can work with plants too, right?
I'm big into my plants and tree energy, and I work a lot with the plants and stuff.
I love plants myself.
Anything that basically is alive, I can do healing first.
Take care, hon. And
thank you so much. Yeah, let's have a catch up again soon. Yeah, for sure. And if you're anyway up near Sydney at any time, just let me know and I'll come and meet you.
Yeah, sounds good.
It would be lovely. Okay. Thank you so much for having me. Bye.